Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Grey Man Profits for the advanced learners, and today we're discussing the potential fall of the AI bubble. So before I get into anything more, you have to understand the key concept. So, in the world of AI, there are about three main companies that are working on this solely: NVIDIA, Meta, and OpenAI. These three companies have generated billions and billions of dollars worth of funding to try and, of course, increase the progression of AI tech so that they can develop a neural network through their system to support a future AI. The problem is they are seeing a plateau in progress. What does this look like? Well, practically, time over productivity or progress. Originally, they had an increased spike because, of course, the increased funding and the increased opportunity. And now they are starting to see a plateau. What is causing this plateau? Well, there are two schools of thought. There are either the lack of progressing power and the increasing of production costs. What does this look like? Well, you're realizing that, of course, to run a neural network for an AI system is going to need processing power. In other words, you need to upgrade all the power grids, and you also need to increase data centers to be able to get the actual infiltration of energy that you need to be able to produce results. The only problem with this is, of course, we don't have the infrastructure for it. The amount of power that they are going to need to cause progression is unrealistic based on what we already have. We have almost a 200-year-old petroleum system, and they're expecting that, hey, we're going to need to build literally hundreds of thousands of different electrical networks and electrical grids to be able to support the progression of these tasks. And realistically, it is unprofitable and unsustainable. This is one of the issues. Then you have, of course, the increase in production costs. The increase of power demand is what the main factor is. Of course, if you have a city, and let's say that there's millions of people in there, and they're living on a certain power grid, you have to imagine that one of these centers is lighting up about the same amount of power that it needs to take to run an entire city. So if they can't increase the power production, the other way that they do it is they reduce the user capability for everyone else and introduce it to the private sector. But they can't do that. So the only problem is now it's supply and demand. How much power can be sent to this to run this specific machine and still be cost effective? The next one is increase in mineral costs. If you've been paying attention to the news whatsoever, you would realize that, of course, platinum, gold, and silver, and cobalt, and all natural earth metals and rare earth metals have skyrocketed through the roof. What is this causing a problem for? Well, of course, these microchips and everything that we're building this new AI sector on is all using these materials. Heck, one microchip uses about 3 to 5 grams of silver. Then you have to go into platinum for the conductivity, and then you have to go into gold for the motherboards, and all of these processing centers are going to need huge amounts of this resource. And unfortunately, it's not cost effective at the moment, especially saying that we're about to go into a recession, meaning that everyone is gearing up for things to crash. And then you have the largest one of all. If they do, by some miracle, get through all of these factors and go, hey, I can increase production. I can increase production to level out this plateau. Then you're slammed with tariff costs for profitability. So let's say that this trading war continues, so that China, India, America, Russia, they're all not communicating well. And realistically, they're the ones that hold the largest money in this sector. And they go, hey, we're not going to contribute and we're not going to align each other with our policies. So we're going to slap tariffs on each other. Any product that you bring in that is developed overseas is going to cost you a pretty buck to import. And then proportionally, it's going to cost the average individual more to assume the content. Then you have to factor in that if they put a 40, a 50, 100% tariff on it, who is going to be able to afford these? And it just knocks them out of the market, going, okay, the old measures of profitability are now completely skewed. It means that, okay, now that we can't meet our supply, we can't meet our demand, we can't even provide our service. Your entire system for your product is falling through the cracks. And this is why I think that the AI bubble in the stock market is going to crash very soon because they realize that, hey, the amount of funding that is going to be needed to get the result that we have promised is irrational. So with that, let me know if you have any extra thoughts and I'll make another video on this later. Have a good evening.